AC Flying School. Our pre-flight briefing this time on takeoff and climb to downwind. Our aim is to take off and fly a normal circuit to the downwind position. Why we need to cover this is to be able to fly safely in a traffic pattern, fitting around other aircraft at an airfield. Our threat and error management. Quite a few bits because there's going to be quite a lot going on in the circuit. Threats, other airplanes on the ground and in the air this time. Engine overheating and wake turbulence from other traffic. Errors that we can make, overstressing the flaps as we're going to be climbing with the flaps, and attempting to take off in unsuitable conditions. So how can we manage this? By looking out and listening out. Listening out on the radio to build up your picture of other aircraft and just building your situational awareness. Performance calculation, especially important in the four-seater aircraft. Our full power checks, our checklist. ATC, because we may need to be in contact with them to get clearances and position reports. And finally, aerodrome markings. As I'm sure from your studying your exams, you are learning what the aerodrome markings are and what impact they have on when we fly. So, the exercise. Initially, we'll just demonstrate to you the takeoff and climb to a downwind position. And then we're going to break it down into separate stages. So the takeoff really starts from the pre-takeoff checks. So it's making sure the aircraft's in the correct state, ready for the takeoff. Then the holding point will announce our intentions that we are ready for departure on the radio, and then enter the runway. Importantly, prior to entering the runway, we want to be having a good look out and a listen out. We want to be checking that the approach is clear of any traffic coming into land, and that the runway is clear. Also, and finally, we want to consider the effect of the wind velocity on the aircraft. Once we're lined up, we want to be checking a couple of things. We want to make sure again that runway is finally clear when you are about to start the takeoff roll. You want to check you got your primary aiming point, and if you can see ahead enough, you got your secondary aiming point. You want to check the DI and the compass, both indicate you are on the correct runway, so we don't want to be taking off on the wrong runway if there are multiple runways on the airfield. Finally, you've got no lights from the tower. After that, we now start the normal takeoff by smoothly applying full power, keeping straight with the rudder. As the aircraft accelerates, we want to be checking a couple of things. We want checking the indicating full power, your T's and P's are in the green, and then the ASI starts reading. Bear in mind that's just a quick scan in and out as you go along that takeoff run. What we're looking to do is to keep the aircraft straight with the rudder and use a short, soft field technique. What this means is that we want to get the weight off the wheels as soon as possible and establish into a best angle of climb. So we're going to start the takeoff roll with the yoke slightly aft of neutral, letting that nose wheel rise off the ground as soon as it's able. After that, we're just pitching to keep the nose on the hedge line at the end of the runway, and then let the aircraft lift off the ground as soon as it's able to, as soon as the wings are generating sufficient lift. As the aircraft becomes airborne, we can then smoothly pitch to that best angle of climb speed. And it will be specific on the aircraft you fly. Once you've got that attitude, just hold the attitude, keep the wings level, and keep the aircraft in balance. After that, we're just looking to climb on an extended line away from the runway. At 300 feet above airfield level, we then retract the flaps and pitch to a best rate of climb. And then continue the climb out. I want to always anticipate, because our next event is at 500 feet above airfield level. Anticipate, have a good look out, make sure looking out to the left in this case, there's no aircraft around. we want to pick a point on the left-hand wingtip to fly towards. So as we do these turns, we're looking to use heading features around the airfield. So before you turn, pick a feature on the left wingtip, then do a climbing turn downwind towards that reference point. Remembering in the climb, it's a maximum of 15 degrees angle of bank. And then we're looking to continue the climb up to 1,000 feet above airfield level. Ideally, it would happen at somewhere at this point and we'd be able to level off before the next turn. Bear in mind, however, it's not always possible. We want to maintain this circuit inside the ATZ, as that gives us a nice protected area to do our circuits. So keeping our circuit inside the ATZ at all times. So looking out, when the tail plane crosses the extended centre line, we're looking to turn downwind. Again, before you turn, just look out to the left. We want to pick a reference feature off on the left wing to turn towards, and that becomes our new reference feature for your downwind leg. So ideally, again, we want to level off, have the aircraft roughly in trim, and then start the turn. Keeping a good lookout at all times, remembering before and after the turn. At the start of the downwind leg, I'd recommend you check 3 things. That you are tracking parallel the runway, you are at 1,000 feet, and you're in trim. THT. Other instructors may have slightly different things to check, but if you can get the start of the downwind leg right, that will make the rest of your circuit much easier. So I'd always check tracking, 1,000 feet and in trim. Once you come to the upwind end of the runway, we can make our radio call for downwind. After that, at a suitable point, we want to do our downwind checks. Remembering an old adage, aviate, navigate, communicate, and then checks come last. If you're not able to get that downwind call in, if it's busy on the radio, just continue the flying, continue aviating, continue navigating, and we'll just fit that downwind call in slightly later on. Now we'll come to the crosswind takeoff. So unfortunately it's not always the case there's no winds. You might find on every takeoff there is an element of crosswind. So I'm going to put a crosswind in from the right. The differences: for the takeoff, you want to have your ailerons deflected into wind when you start the takeoff roll. Smoothly apply full power. There may be some weathercocking effects, the effect the wind has on keeping the aircraft straight. As the airspeed increases, we want to reduce that aileron deflection to keep the wings level. Then we continue that normal short and soft field technique for the takeoff. You may find that aircraft comes airborne with slightly cross controls. If that case, once the aircraft's airborne, just smoothly come back to normal flight, coordinated controls, keeping the aircraft in balance, and then just correct any drift after the takeoff. So just want to change our heading, for example, to allow for tracking out from the runway. Still, these normal points for the crosswind, want to anticipate, look out, pick your reference, your heading reference feature up here, and then do your climbing turn. For your crosswind leg, bear in mind with the wind behind you, you're going to be travelling over the ground. Your ground speed is going to be faster than with no wind. So you may find more often that you will need to do a turn while levelling off. So we again don't want to be flying outside the ATZ. So you might need to combine and be multitasking a bit more. But the key with all this is to think ahead. If If you keep yourself ahead of the aircraft, keep thinking ahead as to what comes next. Keep ahead of the aircraft, it makes your life easier. So that completes our briefing on the takeoff and climb to downwind. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.